The night in the desert was hauntingly quiet, save for the soft sigh of the wind and the crackling of the campfire. Dr. Amina Khalid, weary from the journey, sat beside the dying flames, staring into the darkness beyond the dunes. The strange marks in the sand that Marcus had discovered earlier weighed heavily on her mind. She had seen them before in ancient texts, long thought to be mythic symbols. Now here they were, carved into the desert by unknown forces. Fatimah al-Hassan, ever vigilant, patrolled the perimeter of their camp. Her dark eyes scanned the horizon, searching for any sign of movement in the darkness. Meanwhile, Luca sat opposite Amina, casually cleaning his knife, his posture relaxed, but his eyes ever watchful. "This place gives me the creeps," Luca muttered, breaking the silence. "It's too quiet. Feels like the desert's holding its breath." Amina didn't respond. Her thoughts were too occupied with the significance of the symbols and the increasing strangeness of their surroundings. Every step closer to Wakandire seemed to pull them deeper into a web of mystery, where the boundaries between reality and legend blurred. Marcus Hargrove sat next to her, absently sipping water from his canteen. He was the pragmatic one in their group, always keeping their supplies in check and their feet grounded in the real world. But even Marcus couldn't deny the odd occurrences that had begun to plague their journey. The strange patterns in the sand, the mysterious bird that had appeared out of nowhere, and the sense that they were being watched, though by what, none of them could say. "We need to be careful," Marcus said, his voice low but steady. "The deeper we go into this desert, the stranger things get. We're entering territory that no one's mapped. There's no telling what's out there." "I'm not afraid of legends," Amina replied, though her voice carried an edge of uncertainty. "I'm not talking about legends," Marcus said. "I'm talking about survival. The desert is unforgiving, and we're venturing into one of the most remote and dangerous parts of it. We need to keep our wits about us." Fatimah returned from her patrol and knelt beside the fire, her expression as unreadable as ever. "The desert speaks," she said quietly. "You just have to know how to listen." Amina glanced at her, intrigued. Fatimah had grown up among the Tuareg, the nomads of the Sahara. She'd understood the desert in a way none of them did. "What's it saying now?" Luca asked, his tone light but his eyes serious. Fatimah didn't respond immediately. Instead, she looked out at the horizon, where the stars twinkled like distant fires. "It's watching us, waiting to see if we're worthy." Amina shivered, though the night was warm. The legends of Wakandire spoke of ancient spirits that guarded the city, testing those who sought its treasures. Was that what was happening now? Were they being watched by forces beyond their comprehension? "We'll find Wakandire," Amina said, her voice firm with determination. "We've come too far to turn back now." Fatimah nodded, though there was a hint of doubt in her eyes. "Perhaps. But not all who seek the city are meant to find it." The following day, the desert heat was relentless. The sun blazed overhead, turning the sand into a shimmering sea of gold. The camels trudged forward, their pace slow but steady. Amina, Marcus, Luca, and Fatimah rode in silence, each lost in their thoughts. Amina's mind was racing, piecing together the fragments of the legend that had led them to this point. The symbol Marcus had found, the concentric circles, was the key. She was sure of it. The circles represented the heart of Wakandire, the very center of the lost city. But what did it mean? Was it a map, a clue to the city's location, or something more cryptic? As they traveled deeper into the Tanner, the landscape began to change. The dunes grew larger, more jagged, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with an unnatural energy. Amina squinted into the distance and saw something that made her heart skip a beat. A city. At first, it was barely visible, a mirage shimmering on the horizon. But as they rode closer, the city began to take shape. Tall, gleaming towers of gold and stone rose from the sands, their surfaces reflecting the sunlight like polished glass. The walls were vast and imposing, decorated with intricate carvings that glowed faintly in the heat. It was Wakandire. It had to be. "I see it," Luca whispered, his voice filled with awe. "It's real." Amina's heart raced. After all these years of searching, of studying ancient texts and legends, Here it was, the lost city of Wakandire. But something felt wrong. Wait, Marcus said suddenly, pulling his camel to a stop. Look closer. Amina blinked and stared at the city. As the seconds passed, the image began to waver, like ripples on the surface of a pond. The towers shimmered, and the golden walls began to blur. It wasn't real. It was a mirage. No, Amina whispered, her heart sinking. Luca swore under his breath. Damn desert tricks. It's more than just a mirage, Fatimah said, her eyes narrowing. The desert is playing with us. Amina felt a wave of frustration wash over her. They had come so far, only to be deceived by an illusion. But there had to be more to it. The mirage wasn't just a random trick of the desert. It was a sign, a clue. It's testing us, Amina said, her voice filled with conviction. The legends said that those who seek Wakandire would face trials. This is one of them. We have to keep going. Marcus frowned, but didn't argue. He knew Amina well enough to trust her instincts. Even when the odds seemed stacked against them, they continued onward, the mirage of the city fading behind them as they pressed deeper into the desert. The landscape grew harsher, the dunes steeper, and the winds stronger. But Amina refused to give up. She knew they were close. Wakandire was out there, waiting for them. As night fell, they made camp once again, though the air was thick with tension. The desert had shown them a glimpse of what they sought, only to snatch it away. But Amina was more determined than ever. She sat by the fire, staring into the flames as the others slept. Fatimah had taken the first watch, silently patrolling the perimeter as usual. Amina's thoughts drifted back to the ancient texts, the cryptic prophecies, and the forgotten histories that had led her here. When the rightful heir returns, the city shall rise, and the desert shall part. The phrase echoed in her mind, over and over again, the rightful heir. Amina had long suspected that Wakandire's secrets were tied to a lost royal bloodline. But what if the heir was more than just a key? What if the heir had to be present for the city to reveal itself? Amina's pulse quickened as a thought occurred to her. What if the heir wasn't lost at all? What if the heir was with them? The following morning, as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Amina gathered the group. They had reached a critical point in their journey, and she needed to share her theory with the others. I've been thinking, Amina began, pacing in front of the fire. The legends of Wakandire speak of a royal bloodline, a lost heir who will return to the city and unlock its secrets. I've always believed that this was symbolic, that finding the heir would lead us to the city. But what if it's more than that? What if the heir is the key? Marcus frowned. What do you mean? I mean, what if one of us is the heir? Amina said, her voice filled with urgency. What if the reason we're being tested is because we have the rightful heir with us? Luca raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. You think one of us is royalty? That's a stretch, Amina. I know it sounds crazy, Amina admitted. But think about it. The desert has been testing us, showing us signs and symbols. The mirage of the city wasn't just an illusion, it was a message. We're close, but the city won't reveal itself until the heir is recognized. Fatimah, who had been silent throughout the conversation, finally spoke. How do you propose we find out who this heir is? Amina hesitated. That was the part she hadn't quite figured out yet. I don't know, but I believe that the desert will show us the way. Marcus sighed, rubbing his temples. This is getting more and more far-fetched. But Amina's conviction was unwavering. She had spent years studying the legend of Wakandire, and everything she had learned pointed to this moment. The city was waiting for its rightful ruler to return, and it was up to them to figure out who that was. Let's keep moving, Fatimah said quietly. If what you're saying is true, Amina, then the desert will reveal the answer soon enough. Amina nodded. Though the weight of uncertainty pressed heavily on her, the lost city was within their reach, but the path ahead was fraught with danger and mystery. And as they pressed deeper into the heart of the desert, she couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was about to take a darker turn, one that would test not only their resolve but their very souls.